augmentation and all this kind of stuff. So the name, even before Sensebridge, there were lots of people who were naming things. Either you name your thing noise something, or you name your thing something bridge after the noise bridge, right? You just rip the name apart and put it back together, whatever you want. So there's Space Bridge and a bunch of other groups. And Sensebridge was an obvious choice for us because we're bridging our senses, right? We're trying to get things that are out in the world into our brain. And the main project was this thing. It's a compass anklet, so there's 8 vibrating motors in the center, and then there's a circuit here based on Arduino that senses which way is north and turns on one of the vibrators. So when you're wearing it, it pushes north into your brain. And that's the important part, is the push part. Like, it's not, unlike a regular compass when you look at it, you're pulling the data into your brain. This thing pushes data into your brain all the time, so it's always on. One of the motors is always going. So your brain is always being told which way is north. And the idea of that is, if you present a persistent stimulus to your brain, then your brain will adapt. It'll learn that, oh yeah, this is not noise, this is signal, right? And I can learn from this. And it does work, kind of. Have any of you guys read the Wired article? It was 2004, the German guy, called Field Space. Anybody read that? Yeah. There's usually lots of people in your crowd who read that article. But anyway, the German guy talks about after he wore a belt for 6 weeks, he claimed he got an unerring sense of direction. He was always able to point towards his house and all these other like crazy claims. I didn't really get any of that. but you do get a bunch of very interesting experiences. I got, in terms of proof that it does integrate into your brain, one of the best proofs is that when it malfunctions, you get really confused really fast. And so it picks up not just magnetic north, but also any magnetic field. So like when you approach, like in San Francisco, there's electric underground subway, right? When you're in the train, the fields of the engines affect the device, and you can feel them when they turn on and off. They make the sensor go, like the motors go around your ankles in circles, right? It's awesome. And the same thing is true when you drive over, some stoplights have sensors on them, so they know when a car approaches. Those sensors are also induction sensors, and they trigger this thing to go do totally crazy things. So you're driving down the street, and it just goes like, whoa, on your ankle, and you're like, must hold wheel straight, must hold wheel straight. But also, I mean, you do get some experiences too, where you just learn that like this place that you've always been and you thought you knew where you were, it turns out you're just not. You're like, it's telling you that north is like over there, and you're like, oh, north is over here, and now it's here. And then there's this like battle in your brain where you're like, no, it's wrong. I'm just gonna like rotate around, pull it back, look at the map. I'm like, oh no, it's just right. Yeah. So then there's the battle in your brain where you try to let the North Paw win, which is not an easy battle, but it can be done. So that's some interesting stories from wearing it. In terms of how Sensebridge happened, that's also kind of a funny story. There was a whole bunch of people hanging out at Noisebridge back when Noisebridge was tiny. We had 850 square feet in this like unbelievably sketchy alley in the Mission, which is already kind of a sketchy area. So we used to have, when you come in the door, we actually had a bin inside the door with the sharps laid on it, so you could push the syringes that you found in the alley into the sharps bin so that the next person coming to the space wouldn't step on it. Yeah, that sounds sketchy. But anyway, the space is like super small, right? And one day, 2 other people who I didn't actually know at that time, Nikolai and Story, were talking about sensory augmentation, and they both talked about that Wired article and how awesome it was. And then they both told each other that they bought parts that are sitting on their shelf and they'd never done anything with it. And then they were like, wait, we must have a meeting about this. So they posted to the mailing list, and 6 more people showed up, 4 of whom all had bought parts to build. I was one of them. I bought parts and they were sitting on my shelf. Yeah. And David was the 4th. And so, like, basically we resolved at that meeting, we're like, we must now build it. There's nothing stopping us. Here we are at a hackerspace with all the soldering irons and all the electronics devices we could possibly need. We all bought parts. We all want to do it. So we met like every weekend, every Sunday at 10 o'clock for months on end and hacked away. And it didn't take very long before we had prototypes. It turned out the really hard thing for all of us was creating a comfortable piece of clothing. Because we're all like electronics hackers and programmers, and it turns out sewing machines are really difficult. Velcro layer, right? If you're trying to get the sewing machine, no. Sewing machines with Velcro and foam, dude. So early prototypes were not very comfortable. But we did learn, and eventually we got it down. And while we were doing it, a whole pile of people all told us the same thing, which is that when you get it done, I want to wear it. So one of the things we did after we built our first prototypes and wore them around for a while and had our own experiences was we worked towards kits. And now we actually sell kits, which is super cool. If you guys want to try them, I have the North Paw anklet. This thing is actually, it's a 9-inch anklet. I sell 11-inch anklets now because there's a lot of people who they won't fit. But this thing is really good if you don't want to put it on your ankle. The smallest means you can put it on your arm. And when you do put it on your arm, though, the compass needs to be level, just like any other compass. So you need to hold straight down and then do what's called the Eric dance. Do this. And that will explain to you much faster than I can explain to you how it really works. I told you already there's 8 motors. The one that's north buzzes north. Nobody ever understands that. When you put it on and you do the Eric dance, you will understand what I mean. It does not work the way you think it works. But once you understand how it does work, then it'll be obvious why it works the way it does. There's also a belt. Belts are huge. This is the #1 thing about a belt. Like before I built it, I was like, belts are easy, and then the belt is so enormous. Like I went to buy a zipper. It turns out the largest zippers you can easily buy are 24 inches, and you need like 30 at least for a belt. And so it became kind of work. And also, belts really restrict you. Like this one's only good for maybe 28 to like 32 or 34 at the most. So it's kind of restrictive in terms of who can wear it. But if you're that size, I welcome you to try the belt as well. It has 12 motors instead of 8, so theoretically the resolution is a little bit better. Now I'm open for questions if you guys have questions.
Does it work in a tunnel like this that doesn't have directions?
Yes. It senses magnetic north, so it'll work anywhere. Although, one interesting thing about it that I haven't figured out how to deal with for the kits yet is magnetic north doesn't point north. If you've ever looked this up, magnetic north actually has significant differences depending on your, whichever the longitude is, the one that goes around the planet, right?
It does here, though.
Yeah, here is a good location. Some locations other, but anyways, anywhere from like 20 degrees this way to 20 degrees that way, which is a 40-degree swing, depending where you are in the world, and I haven't really figured out how to deal with that for the kits, so some people may be getting compasses that are wrong by as much as 20 degrees when they buy my kits, but they can always reprogram them. I give people the source code if they're really upset about 20 degrees. Any other questions? Yes. Before you do that, though, I'll tell you, this is the scrapbook I've been building, so you're welcome to flip through. Every hackerspace I've been making scrapbook pages. I left a blank one for Noisebridge because I intend to go back. And you can go through and look, and I make nice notes and little jokes. And there's all kinds of awesome things you can learn about hackerspaces in general. Highly recommend this metrics waiver if you want to read a really awesome waiver that you have to sign into doing this thing. Totally epic. There's all kinds of stories if you want to hear stories. So anyway, yeah, go off and try.
Thanks a lot, Eric.